Okay, so our first unit, we're going to be talking about area and perimeter. In this particular shape, this is called a composite shape because it's not your traditional triangle, rectangle, trapezoid. It is a mixture of shapes. So the very first thing you're going to do when you get a shape like this is you're going to break it into simpler shapes, smaller, simpler shapes. So I did that with this one. I broke it into 3 rectangles. Sorry, my drawing isn't that great. And then I labeled the different side lengths. Now, the area of a rectangle is length times width, and I will always give you those formulas. And then you're going to find the area of each of these simpler shapes and add them together. So the area of the first shape, that first rectangle, is 4 times 8. The area of the second is 4 times 4. And the area of the last one is 4 times 8. Then I'm going to add all of those together using my calculator. And I get that the area of this composite shape is 80 centimeters squared. Now notice that I have that square there. Anytime you find area, it is in square units. All right, now if I wanted to find the perimeter of this guy, the first thing I'm going to do is find all of the lengths of the sides. So I can see that if my right side is 8, my left side has to be 8 centimeters. And then I just took the measurements along the top and brought them down to the bottom. So if I added 4 plus 4 plus 4, I'd have the length of the bottom side of that shape. And now don't forget this one, because the first time I did this, I did. On the inside there, if one side is 4 centimeters, the other is 4 centimeters. And now I'm just going to add all of these up. Now, notice how I do this. When I'm adding these up, I actually put a check mark by each one as I go, so I don't forget any. I really highly recommend that you use that strategy. And I get that the perimeter of this shape is 48 centimeters. Now notice, perimeter is just linear length, so I don't need centimeters squared. Okay, let's look at another shape. Again, this is a composite shape, so the first thing I'm going to do when I'm finding area is I'm going to cut this into simpler shapes. Now notice when I cut it into simpler shapes, I have a rectangle, and actually it's a square, and a triangle. Now remember that a square is also a kind of rectangle. So the 2 formulas that I will be using is area of a triangle, which is 1/2 base times the height of the triangle. And then I'm going to find the area of the rectangle, length times width, and add them together. Now looking at my small triangle, I see that my base is 3 and my height is 4. So I'm going to take 1/2, 3 times 4. I'll put that in my calculator and I'll get 6. And then I'm going to take the area of the rectangle, which is length times width, which is 10 times 10, which is 100. So I'm going to add the 6 plus 100, and I'm going to get 106. Notice I wrote the word units. If there is no units indicated, I need to write the word units with a square because it's area. Now, to find the perimeter, remember perimeter means all the way around. I'm just going to find all my side lengths and add them together. So the only side length I don't know is this right one, and if I just add the 4 and the 10, I get that it is 14 units. So again, I'm going to use my strategy of marking off as I go, and I'm going to add all of these shapes, or all of these outside lengths up, and I'm going to get that the perimeter of this shape is 46 units. All right, so that is how to do composite shapes, area and perimeter. What if I get a triangle like this, where I want to find the area and perimeter of this triangle, but I've only been given 2 sides of the triangle, and I really need all 3 sides. Okay, so to find the area, I know that area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. If I don't know a side of a triangle, if it is a right triangle, I can use what is called the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now here's the key on this. The c is always the side opposite the right angle. It's called the hypotenuse. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is identify my c. And in this case, it is a length of 8. And then I'm going to plug those into my a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I think I'm going to call a 7, and then b is the side I'm solving for. It doesn't have to be, but I'm just going to do that. So a squared equals 7 squared plus b squared. And I'm going to solve this, and I get that b squared equals 15. Now to remember, back from your algebra days, to get rid of a square, you take the square root of each side, because a square root cancels out the square. And then you get b equals the square root of 15. Now I'm not going to change that to a decimal. I'm just going to leave it as the square root of 15, because I know it's going to be some sort of long run on decimal. So to make it easy on me, I'm just going to leave it as the square root of 15. And then I'm going to plug these numbers into my formula, 1/2 times square root of 15 times 7. Then using my calculator, I get that that is 13.555 something, something, something. And I'm going to round to 2 decimals. So remember, 5 or above, give it a shove. So 13.56 units squared. Now I went through that pretty fast, so I'm going to just go through that one more time on this other shape. Notice that on the shape on the right, it's a triangle, but I only have half of the base, or part of the base, I should say. I don't even know it's half. Just 8. I need the rest of this length right here in order to figure out the area of this triangle. So again, since it's a right triangle, I can use the Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to identify the side opposite the right angle, which is 7. And I'm going to plug that into my formula. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. And again, I'm just going to solve for b squared. And when I do, I get that b squared equals 44. Now to get rid of my square, I am going to take the square root of both sides, and I get that b equals square root of 44. Again, I'm going to be lazy and just leave that as square root of 44. And then I can say in my formula, area equals 1/2 times the base. Now my base is, and I must put this in parentheses in my calculator, 8 plus square root of 44, times my height of the triangle, which is 5. And when I put that in there, I'm going to get that the area of this triangle is 36.58 units squared. Now, on either of these shapes, I could just add up all 3 sides on the outside to find the perimeter. I think you have what you need for your homework now.